All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. Look like we made it, my brother. We made it back. We made it. We are here. We've been gone for about what 3 or 4 years, is that far as live is concerned, right? We made it back. We had a great time at Chicago. Is that right? Oh, what
Yes, sir.
memories!
Awesome.
It was an awesome thing. So I don't know. Somewhere along the line, we have to get some. Well, most of us doing the pictures and different things like that. But we had to get them together and just kind of put everything together. I think it'll be good, and just put it out there. Maybe we'll share some things with the rest of the family, and I think it'll be good. So it was awesome, refreshing. I mean, there's so
Very.
many words that we can use with that, right? Challenging, cold,
Yeah.
hot. I think we got it all, didn't we? We
Yes,
got
sir.
cold, hot, medium, good food, so that was good. And I know little man, he has an experience. I just was talking about that today. Was the fire ants? That's gonna be his story. I tell you,
Yes.
he's the only one can tackle the fire ants in Texas.
He's an expert now.
Yeah, he's an expert. I tell you, the little one. So it seemed like everybody came out safe. No broken limbs or nothing. We had a good time and had a
Folks in the
submersion
room.
as well, a mikvah. So that worked out. All of those things worked out, and I tell you, I was excited about that. And it's just was good. It just was good in that. So that's the reason that we hadn't been live, I guess, for several weeks. And then it takes several more weeks to recover, doesn't it? You can have several weeks, and then it takes several more weeks to recover in that. But I'm so grateful for it. It's good. I honor. I'm just delighted that the Father has given us some appointed times. Right, those of us that's in covenant with Him, and that we have a chance to meet Him at His feast days. That way, we'll know what's going on. It's sort of like a in our time, we were dealing with a lot of time on Torah study, but in our time, it gives us a kind of a area
Yes.
that we know where we are at, right? And we just sort of not totally left out to where we need to be, but we definitely are there. And so I tell you, I'm delighted. But why don't you share one experience? I know you had another one that might be new to you, or something that you like doing Shakot too as well.
Um. Wow. See, you put me on the spot. This
Yes, I
Sukkot was
did. Well,
awesome.
that's the
I
best.
think.
That's the best kind there, though.
Honestly, I think what was really what's fresh on my mind was the rainy day. That day it did not go the way anybody expected it to go, but we banded together. It was awesome. I want to give a shout out to my man JJ. He
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there wrestling everybody's camp, putting your tents down, dropping pegs, helping me stand on. This is a measure towards preparedness. We had a
Yeah,
step
yeah.
stool, but the step stool wasn't high enough, so we had to stand on the top of the step stool to reach up and undo the tarps for the sukkah.
Uh-huh.
So I think that was the best thing for me, that there wasn't a challenge that we didn't come out of happy. We all came out happy. Everything was awesome, and I think that's how I remember it, at least. It was good. I
Yeah,
liked that
yeah,
part. Rainy day
yeah.
was really refreshing, and my tent didn't leak.
Yeah, there you go.
So I praised out for that. It
Yeah,
was it was one of the coolest nights. The breeze was good. It was awesome.
yeah, yeah. You be able to hear in that rain, coming off of the tent there, and like you say, you were thinking about everybody trying to expect it to see where the water may come in at.
Yes, yes. There were a lot of
So
challenges. Sister
yeah,
Gwen had a
yeah.
bucket full.
Yeah, yeah, she sure did. Yeah, so some did experience the inside washing
Yes.
of the tent as well, you know. And
Yes.
it's a temporary dwelling. So I thank the Father. It was good, and I think it's excited, and I think we have, if the Father will, if things continue the same, maybe next year here we will find, far as the calendar is concerned, we would have a different experience, but yet all together. So looking forward to that, and we just building in that, and growing with one another, and then you find out a lot about each other too, and in that,
Hmm.
and so the get up early in the morning, and then you I think the things that we had a chance everyone to eat together and share. You have to get your cheers, and so it was really good. It was really good. Just thinking about how everyone taking care of everyone, and I think no need didn't go unmet. So
True.
even through the challenges that you might have had, I think we all somehow that the Father had used us to serve one another in such a way that none of the needs didn't go unmet in that. So it was good, and we had the different activities and things like this, and the most of you may see it's a menorah behind us. Someone, I forget who painted this. You know what? I can't
It's
remember who
just
did this. That's Jasmine, right? But we had many more. So if I had some more pictures, I think some people took pictures of them. Maybe we'll kind of use them maybe as our background as well during the power up sessions, and maybe we'll put something out there, some of those activities. It would be good to maybe in the future. But I think next year would be more solid, and we may be able
oh
to
yeah.
yeah, we may be to the thing is trying to get the internet to go live the way that we have to do it. So we would have to record it and then upload it and then all of that. So and it's a lot already going on. It's a lot going on in that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's
Jam
already a
packed.
lot, and I think if we had some echoes or some testimonies of that, I think everybody would, really express that, how wonderful those things are, and challenging and wonderful and joyful all at the same time. And it's always good. It's always good in that. So we'll take that and maybe just slide right into the little, maybe the title or the topic that we may have tonight. And we're talking about, first of all, healthy. We're going to have a healthy compromise. When we're dealing with a healthy compromise, it's so much because I think we do it all the time. So it's critical in order for us to maintain, right, relationships. So, but not just relationships, but we want a healthy relationship. All of us will experience at one time. I think, and I get, you can chime in as well. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, and even those that are listening as well is you're gonna need that. I look at it, I put it this way, I look at it as you're gonna need it to function. I found out in my life over the years that it is always easier to find that ground that you can do, and it's a healthy one, because this could turn around on you. But sometimes I think about the sacrifice that goes along with that. If I was to think about that real quick, I think about the sacrifice maybe that goes along with this. In Romans chapter 12, I'm just going to kind of pull this, this is really not here, but it was talking about, I call upon you, therefore, brethren, through the compassion of Elohim, to present your bodies. And this is where I wanted to go here, a living offering set apart. And some of our scriptures or some translations may say sacrifice. But it's well pleasing, right? And that's what we want in order for us to have our reasonable service. And so we have a desire for that, and have a desire to do that, right? So I know that compromise will take a sacrifice. It would take a living, and that's what I want to even bring out with that. If you allow me to use that, because this will transform. This is part of the renewing of our mind, right? When you compromise, you're renewing your mind because it's you got two parties or more, right? With all of the background, all different ideas or whatever, right? So we always want to do for what is, what would be the greater good. So that can, that can be a little broad in that. And we know that as we begin to discuss this, and we may have a part two, I don't know, but as we begin to discuss this, you have, what's going to make this relationship great, right? So we could start with husband and wife, and then our brethren, and then at work. You can just plug this in where your heart desires, and maybe where the ruach, or the spirit that most would know are leading you to do, right? I found out that compromising, if it's healthy, then it's a good balance, right? It is a give and take. It is a give and take. So whoever the parties is, if you give and take, and then take and give, and so that's what it is. It is a avenue to have a open communication, And then with this, I found out too, and I'm just giving you some of the things that experience have found out. And then, I guess if you look it up, or if you say that, or talk to someone about it, they may be saying the same things. And this may not fit all. This may not fit all. But what you can take from it, please eat thereof, right? That what you can take of. But you need, this will help your open communication. And that's something that is real, real important, that we still should strive for all the time, is to have the communication open. And there's so many avenues. Never be stuck to just one way, right? When it comes to that communication, when it comes to give and take. And so when we have a healthy, when we have to compromise in something, compromise, when we do that, then we will, this is, before you even get there, you have to have what we call, say, mutual respect for one another. Respect, honor, and all of that is real good when you come to the table, because if you come to the table in, I would say, a different spirit, other than that, excuse me, other than that being, disrespectful, or you don't honor the person, and you don't have the love that needs to be there at the table. And most times I'm talking about on tonight is two parties, having that the same, because it can't be one sided. In order to have a compromise, you have to say, okay, we want open communication, and all of these things are done. It's taking out time to make sure that those things are done too, right? Because why we want to do this, we are trying to come to a settlement in this, right? We trying to come to a decision, and then that we can find in this middle ground, if you allow me to say, in the middle ground, we trying to find this because we need to resolve something. We need to resolve something. In order for us to do that, when we are functioning with one another, the only way that can happen is there has to be a compromise, in that. So my ideal, your ideal, how can we find that? Now, it's very critical, but it's so many ideas and so many things. You have to want to do this, though. You have to want to be healthy, because if you don't want to be healthy, then you'll find yourself somewhere else, So, we want to make sure that when we leave, I use a metaphor as the table. When we leave this table, the disagreement or that conflict could be settled, and that we both will agree on the agreeable, and that should comfort our hearts when we do that. That should comfort our hearts. Now the other side, of course, is when we talk about being an unhealthy relationship, then you have a lack of respect. You have a lack of honor, right? There is no sacrifice, the other side of this coin of this, or the sacrifice is one sided. And in relationships and in things, I see a lot of times, a lot of stuff is like one sided. And so if we are trying to get to somewhere, we're trying to get to this, what I'm using tonight is a middle ground, if you say that, or at this table that we can meet and have that, then we don't want that. Because what stops a healthy compromise is a unwillingness to change, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want, you have to want to meet me at a middle ground. So why are we even discussing this if you're unwilling to do that? You have to be able to do that. An unhealthy situation or compromise also is you don't want to involve being manipulated, right? So, and when you're compromising in that, I said this table is we coming with some love. Love don't do that, right? Love don't try to take advantage of that situation. And I found out that that's what happens when we struggle with our compromising, when we struggle with those things. And so, in order to do that, you have to submit to one another, right? You have to submit to one another, both sides. And this is whatever, you can kind of plug that in. But most of all, we're talking about the community and then the things of the covenant of the Most High, right? I find out too that I don't know how this happens, but it's a lack, and I was saying this before, a lack of respect, a lack of respect for one another's boundaries. Now, when you are a healthy compromise, right? Because you bring in those boundaries to the table when you get ready to discuss it. You bring in those there, but an unhealthy situation is you don't have no respect for that. But you have to want to. That's what I put it in that way. You have to have the want tos. You have to want to do this in order for it to be discussion. The reason sometimes communication is what we call, and it could look different. Compromise could look different according to what a country you might be in or whatever, in the sense of I'm using the English word there, right? So it has to be that, right? And so an unhealthy situation can be, if you find yourself in communication and trying to compromise that and it's draining to you, right? That's not a good place. That's unhealthy, right? The two parties or whoever, the group or whatever, if it's draining or even harmful to you, that's not good, right? That's not good. So when I'm saying a healthy compromise, it is all things being normal is what I am be trying to get into here, that all things being normal in that. So it's something that when we get back to the agreement of this, let me raise this up a little bit. Get back to the agreement of this. We want to make sure that it is resolved. Now, most times, I found out sometime when I'm using this come to the table. That means when two people or whoever gets together, if it's not solved at that time, some things need to not all things, but some things need to be resolved before you leave the table, you know. So other words, before you end that, it needs to be resolved, and it can be according to what you are willing to give up. Now, of course, we don't, in a sense, we're not, and maybe I mentioned it. I think I had a list of that. I probably jumping ahead of myself, but we're not compromising. I'm just going to say the word of Yah, anything that has to do with the things of the Father, right? Because he tells us what he instructs us. He gives us his teachings, and then he gives us an instructions, and then he instructs us on what to do, right? So that part of it, I'm like I say, I'm not you know, when you say compromise, that needs to be communicated in what the Father desires for us. Other words, he's saying, for instance, remember we just used Romans 12, and we was talking about being a living sacrifice. There's no compromise on that. Right? You can't say, well, okay, how can we not be a living sacrifice, right? Or a living offering, right? How can we do that? Well, and we can enhance one another with that, but we have to do that in order to be well pleasing to the Father, right? And so, because that has to do with our worship, so worship is just not a song. Sometimes something that you bow down to, we have to know that, right? So it is healthier, the understanding, and so we want to be able to be in agreement, but that agreement has to be comfortable. Now, I'm not talking about comfortable like my feelings are comfortable, but it has to be comfortable in making this decision. Most times, not so much of the feeling thing, but you will, because the Most High put those feelings in us in order to direct us in different areas. Then you ought to feel comfortable when you get up. It ought to be a handshake or agreement with something strong in that. Now, sometimes this can be very. We do this, without really, just thinking. I'm just kind of portioning it out here, but we do this without really thinking sometimes. And sometimes there are points where we would say, let's have a meeting, or there are points, but most times you doing this, I would say on the fly. Let's use that. You doing this right away, and so we have to make sure that we know that this is, say negotiations. These are some of the words that we know in our relationship. But in those negotiations, don't lose your own self. Don't lose, so much that you compromise, that you have compromised to the point that, you lost your value. You lost your boundaries. You lost your needs. You lost that. What you are willing, and sometimes people line of what they're willing to give up is different. And so sometimes I expect you to give up something that you really don't want to give up, whatever that might be. And it shouldn't be that. But I should be willing to find out what it is that you're willing to maybe give up or submit to, or whatever the situation might be, in that. A good healthy compromise is, you should never, you shouldn't feel like pressured. You shouldn't feel that pressure to do anything that you don't want to do. That falls into we talking about the healthy compromise there in that. And so it helps you when you are communicating too, is to deal with the facts. Somebody say, just the facts, Jack. Just the facts. And so much not in emotions. Your emotions can get into it, and so we have to get our soul under control. In other words, our emotions have to be under control, and that's part of this transformation. And this transformation is part of being in your mind. So Romans 12:2 goes right into that. That again, we trying to see what the desires of Elohim is, and so we want our desires to be His desires as well. And so sometimes the accuracy of our discussion, it may not be there either, so and that could bring about feelings also. And then if unforgiveness is there, that can cause you not to have the middle ground. So sometimes on your subject that you come to the table with, sometimes other things have to be dealt with before you can get to the main thing you came to the table with. Because if you don't start, this is important. This is a power up moment. We have some unresolved issues that we need to take care of. and we thought we took care of them, but they hadn't. They're going to affect, right? You're going to be in an unhealthy situation that's going to affect the healthiness of the compromise, the healthiness of your communications, right? So they still have to be dealt with before you can bring the other up. All of those have to be dealt with, and then it will be more enlightened to the parties that this is what we could do. And trustworthiness, it has to be there. Oh man, honesty has to be there, and it's make it difficult when you don't have those things. Trust, respect. As I had it down somewhere, things that I've been talking about, and then we'll say open communication, boundaries. All those things are there, right? But honesty. Sometimes honesty, it can be defined by people differently. When you say be honest, what is that really about? How much do we really communicate honestly of what we feel? So if the unresolved issues can be taken care of, not what we use an idiom here, the swept under the carpet. We need to get that. We need to raise that carpet up and get all of that stuff out from under the carpet. And that's, we use another one to talking about putting it, things that's in the closet. We need a cleansing, right? We need a cleansing when we're dealing with one another. And this is from the unity of the husband and wife all the way through work, relationship, assembly, one another, a nation, whatever you want to put it in, those things will be there. But none of this don't work if you don't have two people that want to be able to do this, right? So there's you have to want tos, you have to want tos. Well, okay, brother, I've been going with this about 20 minutes or so. Did you want to have an input, question, comment so far before we go continue on?
Sorry, my
Uh,
computer must have thought it was an iPad for a second.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was trying to, shut down. Oh man. Oh man. You said it. You said it was only been 20 minutes. So um that was a
Well, I was
lot.
guessing at it now. Don't hold me to that. I do.
Oh no. No, I was alluding to the fact all praises to Yah
Yeah,
that
hallelujah.
you're just in 20 minutes, that was a lifetime of information. So oh man, I just praise Yah for that. There were so many things that you had brought up and so many hit my heart and are it's just a witness to Yah's wisdom. And it's just amazing. I'm blown away at how I guess how intricate. I mean, I'm totally not trying to make it more complex than it is, but it is a very
Hmm.
intricate thing for us to want to even begin to desire, like you said, sit at the table. Like, what's it take for two people to sit at the table
Yes,
and
yes,
want to make this
yes.
compromise? And it's not like I get at the table and I don't buckle in. It's like, no, I sit down and I want to come to a conclusion. You said something that is big in my heart. It's like resolution. To me, that's one of the most beautiful things between two people. My heart is really set on resolution, and I love resolution because we're going to offend.
Yes,
We're gonna
yes.
come to a point to where you're gonna you're gonna bump me, I'm gonna bump you. But when it's all said and done, the love is the resolution. Because I think the word even tells us, if your brother sins against you, it doesn't tell you hate him in your heart. No, it says go to him.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
So I love that you were bringing that out because to do this, you have to be a person like you said. There's a lot of blocks that need to be there's a lot of rocks that need to be taken out of the path, I should say, the rock of unforgiveness has to be removed before you sit at the table of healthy compromise. Not bearing grudges, that has to be removed before you sit at the table. And that's coming out of Leviticus 19. So there's so many things that, like when you said about manipulation, I'm not coming to the table to make a healthy compromise. I fabricated. There has to
Mm-hmm.
be we in this healthy compromise. It's not a situation to where I'm going to get my result. It's not about a win. It's about a relationship. And sometimes that means that you're going to have to address some things that are like you said, they may be uncomfortable, but when we walk away, we should be more comforted.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you had said, because there's a lot of coercion that comes down into the area of compromise. And then there's like the last one you just said was like a mountain, honesty. It's like anybody can sit down at the table of compromise and lie to get up,
Right. Right.
or not tell
Mm-hmm.
the truth to get out of it, or just say the parts everybody wants to hear so that we can leave this uncomfortable situation behind us. But I think those feelings need to be placed in a position of wisdom. And when you said that, um, we need to default. This isn't exactly what you said, this is the way I heard it. But we need to default towards the wisdom of Yah in our situations according to the word, because the word speaks towards these relationship things that we need to compromise. And I think sometimes we focus on the punctuation, but we're not paying attention to everything that's being said. And when you brought that up about compromise, a lot of words can be shared because feelings are deep, but when it's all said and done, if we do start with honor, if we do start with respect, if we even start from a place of understanding, I think that would really help us, because when one person uncovers their heart, like you said, open communication, that doesn't mean they're going to say everything maturely. Sometimes things are going to be said in the compromise that aren't going to be worded right. So I think sometimes we need to be willing to hear what someone says so that we can receive it, and then we can make it better, instead of just getting
Mm-hmm.
stuck on, oh, you didn't say it right. It's like, you can't say everything. It's like, did you understand what I meant though? I think sometimes we really need to uncover that part. Like you said, there's a lot of lack of love, because it is a one-sided situation when it comes to somebody who wants to compromise. If the other person doesn't want it as much as you do, it could be a waste of time,
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately they're coming there just to appease your feelings. So when it comes down to this particular thing of the compromise, and I like the way you put it, it's like, okay, well, we want to present ourselves as well pleasing in order to have reasonable service, because we can fool ourselves. So if we're well pleasing just in our eyes, what about the eyes of the Most High? And so if we could do that in the sense of in a community, I think it proves that like the compromises that you're bringing out here are healthy, that can be healthy, but it's a two-way street. And there's mirrors on both sides of the table. So it's not like one person is being exposed. Like we both need to be able to be exposed, because this is an area of submission. And I think it takes a lot of self-honesty, not just someone who just wants to say the right things, but someone who's honest, not just about how they feel, but about what happens. Because we do all desire to be, I was talking about these things today, actually. We all have a sense of persuasion. We all have a sense of convincing, but when it comes down to compromises, those things need to be made in honesty. And I think when you said that about boundaries, that's what comes to my mind. You know, no one knows they crossed the invisible line.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
have
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
to make it clear. And those things really, I think, can only be done in love. And you have to be a person who's willing to want it to be better, because relationships are an investment.
Right.
Everything
Beautiful.
we have with each
Mm-hmm.
other is an investment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to instantly return. I spend 100, I'm not going to get 100 the same day. However that people may view that. But the idea is that whatever I put into you, I'm expecting a return on it in love, because I invested it in you in love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot that you had said. And I liked what you said about walking away in comfort. I really like that, because I think everybody has that whole idea. I'm shaking hands on a bad deal. I think
Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah.
ever done that, you know it. You're like, I'm getting taken advantage of, but when you walk away from someone in the covenant at a compromise, a healthy compromise, in order to renew the bonds of fellowship with someone you care about, the idea is that I want to walk away just as strong in our relationship. This isn't a how can I say? It's not like you said a one way street. It is a give and a take. You know,
Right, right. Absolutely.
it's really really well said, and I like how you put that in the sense of it's something that you have to renew your mind towards. One thing that's come up to me is when you're wanting to change and you're wanting to observe, changes and be a person who's willing to change. There's a difference between changing and vacillating,
Hmm.
because a person who thinks that they're changing, but all they're doing is switching in between two different positions, that's indecisiveness. That's not a change. So the thing that what I'm seeing in the compromises you're bringing up, this is somebody who knows what they want and they can make a decision. Not someone who's going to be in the green today, but tomorrow that they're in the red. We have to be consistent in these things because it takes time to prove that these compromises are what we really mean. We can't just say yes and then get up and be the same person you were. You know. So it's just
Right,
there's a
right, right.
lot to what you're saying, and I'm just excited about that because the submission part, the wholehearted submission, is really what it takes. You know. So
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
awesome with that.
And that's what before you get there, there are other things in our life that needs to be taken care of. I think I cannot when we talk about this healthy compromise, I can't come to the table on what can I get you to compromise on though, right? So each party has whatever that discussion is. So it's not like because you still coming wrong, It's like, okay, what can I get them to compromise on? Well, you coming to the table wrong. So what it is that person or whatever, according to how it looks like, you maybe because it might be something new or you didn't know of, and what's in your heart. So we never compromise anything that goes against the word. So outside of that, anything can be adjusted, right? So compromising is just the adjustment that you need to have in a relationship. In
Yeah.
relationships, there are constant just adjustments that needs to be made. Sometimes those, it can bring about tension, you know, but it's just for a short while because that can be adjusted. So sometimes when we have something, say if we get is I just use the family real quick. If I say husband and wife, if the emotions of you're not hearing me, and we say get angry or whatever, in order for it to be successful, it has to adjust though. You may adjust to an anger point, but you have to get out of that. You can't stay there, you know. And so, you know, because we're trying to settle, maybe a conflict and compromise. Like I say, is always, doing or whatever. You come up to a four-way stop, right? And then, of course there's the right of way. But if you come up to it, there have been people that wave me on, right? What they did was they had the right of way, but they waved me on. So what they just did is they compromised. They came to the table. So what I'm saying is that's a compromise. And I had a chance to go across the street before they did, right? And they had the right of way, and so they yielded to me and gave me the position to go forward. They don't know me. They never heard of me. I'm just saying they may not never see me again or whatever. But at that point, they had to compromise, and it was healthy. It might have been healthy to the point where Yeah, I'm gonna make sure he go where he don't hit me, but whatever the idea of that is just that simple. See, it's just that simple. A lot of things we're making very, very difficult, and it's not because we are not willing to yield. We have to be a people that are willing to yield to things, and that, that's all of us. If we could do that, the things that we're talking about, we need more than just one person doing it. We need the collective, the people doing it, right? That's what we need. There have been times I come to that four-way stop, and what is a four-way or two-way or whatever? I wave, they wave, I wave, they wave. I was, so other words, I was willing to yield. They say, "No, you go ahead," and then you go ahead. And then out of that place, sometime both of us yielding. You wave, I wave, you wave, I wave. Somewhere the adjustment, sometime of anger came because it might have
Yeah.
been okay. You know what I'm saying? You didn't go when I said go, and you didn't. Well, I'm gonna go. I was letting you go. I was letting you go.
Yeah.
And so that has to be adjusted because that wasn't what that was doing. So you had two people yielding in such a way, but because one didn't submit to the other one, maybe at an appropriate time, then anger came in that. So I'm just using that as an example sometimes. So when I say anger, I'm saying the frustration of I asked you to go, you asked me to go, I asked you to go, well, one of us got to go, that type of
Exactly.
thing, right? That type of thing. And it was done innocently. Those things were done innocently. So we trying to resolve that conflict. So both of us wave and you go, I go, you go, then eventually somebody just takes off. So that solved that particular conflict. It went from submission to a conflict. You know what I'm saying? A willingness to compromise, but it went to, so when these, when the people or whatever, the go, then you go, and then the other person go, and all that thing. So we trying to resolve something, right? When we compromising like that, we trying to resolve something. We trying to reach a point where it'll be beneficial for everyone, right? That's involved in that, and that those things can be good. I think that if you are not willing to, according to what it is, if it was at the job, maybe you're not willing to do something, then it should be voiced. Sometimes now that we want to, it gets into a different thing, and we want to talk about healthy, but sometimes, I won't accept your compromise because it wasn't the compromise that I thought you ought to be able to compromise. Right?
Oh, I
So I
understand
won't
what you're saying.
accept that. So sometimes I need to, if you say something, then I need to really, really address because that's what you are willing to give up. You willing to give up that, and to compromise that. You say, if somebody say, well, can you babysit for me? And you say, yes, sure I can. And then you would say, I'm just trying to use something off the top of my head. Maybe you would say, "Oh, sure. What time?" And you say, "Can I bring them over at I'd say 6?" And I say, "Oh, I normally get up around 7. What about 6:30?" You see what I'm saying? So that you automatically doing with some of the things that we're discussing tonight, but you doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then they say, "No, I can't do it at 6:30." Because of this or that or that, or or whatever, then I might be saying, okay, I usually don't get up I'll be ready then at 6, right? Or in that. Or the person could say, okay, maybe I call and let them know that I'll be a little late because I need to drop them off. And this is, maybe it's something out of the normal. And so both parties are trying to do their best, right? To make sure that, we can come to agreement to do that. And so that's what's important, Okay, 6:30, bam, or the person say six, and especially when you think that that would take more less pressure off of someone else. 6:30 that'll make me late. Well, I don't want to make you late. I get up at six. I meet you there at six or whatever that you bring them by, whatever the situation may be. Right. That's what I'm trying to put something off the top of the dome here, but this is what I'm saying. So we have to make sure that those things are there. So how does it work? Sometimes we got to identify what the issues are when we looking at the compromise situation. Share one another's perspective on those things, and when you say something, make things valuable what somebody else is saying to you sometimes, and don't take it lightly, be respectful. I don't know why we can't be respectful to one another. It's puzzling to me sometimes. And I know that what seems respectful to one may not seem respectful to the other, whatever that is. In this day and time, what does that look like, right? Things change so quickly, and this may be foreign to most people. What is that? So we're trying to, try to find that middle time, that middle, what I say, middle of the table, middle ground, negotiate those situations. A lot of times we hear different things about negotiations. Try to negotiate those things, right? Work those things out. Work together. You can work those, you can work it out. See what needs to be done. And then when you find something in common, then go in on it. But most of all, reach an agreement. Reach an agreement. And even though I may feel frustrated, not frustrated. I don't know what I may feel like maybe it wasn't the best, but it is something. So compromise is important. It's important for our relationship. It keeps shalom. It keeps shalom. And anytime we solve arguments, anytime we can solve fights, anytime we can solve any of those things through a healthy compromise, it promotes something. And what that promotes is cooperation. We can cooperate with one another. Things can happen in that way, and that brings about an encouragement. It brings about a building up. Finding those things, and then we say something like, have you ever said, like, sometimes that person sure is easy to get along with? You know why that is? Somewhere along the line, they have, if you would say the art, if you somebody would say that, they use but they have really really learned those things of a healthy compromise. That they have really did that, and listen, a healthy compromise is going to maintain a good, healthy relationship wherever it may be, right? Wherever it may be. And I'm not talking one sided, of course. You can't say everything. Okay, we're talking balance, a balanced decision. Let it be a balanced decision in all of those things that we do. And then, of course, like always, even with the word of Yah, we always want to put it in a place of practice, right? 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Now this is talking about like going to court or going before the judge, all of this, but it has a point that I wanted to bring out that came to mind. It says, should any of you holding a matter against another, right? And then it's talking about here we should be able to solve those things instead of going to the judge before the unrighteous, not before the set apart ones, right? So yes, I am kind of pulling this out, but the principle of holding a matter. So this is where we was trying to get, because we didn't want to hold a matter with one another. We want to have a healthy, compromise. And so sometimes we have to give that up. We should be able to solve some things. Now, the things that we cannot solve, we can always take them up. We always take them up to leadership and we can get those things solved. But even in that, that is something that you have to have a desire to do. You have to have a desire to do that. All right. So before I hand it to you, my brother, I don't want it to be too much lengthy, but let me make sure that I had a couple of keys here, and I think I might have said finding middle ground. I said that, trade offs. Sometimes you have to negotiate. I can give you this, I can give you that, and da 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 da, and then it will be good. But whatever decision you do make sure that it is pure from the heart, and that you mean it. The most damaging thing is to do things, to say things that you don't really mean, you know. And even if we sometimes we find ourselves in a situation, you know, it's we can always adjust. I go back to that. I make it even more simpler for me. Just adjust. So we use it in everyday life, family life. If we want to say friendship, we use it in the classroom. We use it in society. We use it in governments, policy, politics, whatever you want to say, right? But most of all, we have to make sure we understand about what the Father said in that, and always. Now, this is another one in Matthew. And I'm kind of taking this for you scholars. You know that this is talking about, of course, leave your gift there before the altar, right, and go. But the principle that I was saying is to go first and make peace with your brother. So I'm pulling that in the sense of this, that I'm pulling that. I know in its context what it's talking about, but I'm pulling this is we always want to make shalom. And so one of the things of doing that is making sure then that whatever it is, that it be well minded with your opponent. So other words, we have to agree quickly, in that, promptly in that, right? So whatever it is, if we agree with them, if we come to a healthy compromise, then you won't be delivered up to the judge. We can settle some of those things. Then the judge to the officer what is saying, and then to throw you into prison. But before we even get there, I think that if a lot of things can be solved, something all things can't now. I'm just saying a lot of things. A lot of things can be solved in that, right? And so that's a very, very important situation to be in that. All right, my brother. Okay. All right. Did you have anything else, my brother?
Yes, sir. Praise y'all. Lots of notes. That was definitely really good. There were so many things. It's like there are so many things that could be said, and I'm just grateful to listen to this because the goal for me now is, like you're always saying, it's like it's one thing to hear it, but we're to be the people of action. We're going to be
Right.
doers. And it's just like as I'm listening to this, I'm like playing through all these scenarios in my head of when this worked out, when it didn't, things that could have been different. I like that one you said about the babysitting because sometimes that doesn't go so well. It's all like well, you're the one that offered, so
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
happened? So there was so many things that you had said, and I like that one verse from Corinthians because the idea for that for me is that righteous people should know mishpatim. They should know judgments,
Hmm.
and if we're people that understand righteousness, there are certain things that we already know. I guess our rules of the covenant, if you will, if I say it that way, will allow us on areas that are easier to agree. And I think that there are so many things that you would point out right there, and I like that about not seeking. We're not making a compromise just so that I could say I was right. or for that person to say I was wrong. I mean, if those things come about in a good way, that's cool. Because sometimes we do need that confession. Somebody out there needs to be said, needs to be told, you were right about that. Like they need to hear that. And the person saying it needs to say it. They need to say it. And the person that needs to be told that they were, I'm not necessarily just trying to say wrong, but they were in the wrong, perhaps. They need to hear that too, because those are the things that we need to be able to do so that we can get through this. But it's not always about that. Sometimes there's a higher road to take. And I like that when you brought up the example of two people willing to submit to each other until it became a problem. Wow, that I've seen that so many times, and it really can happen in the matter of moments, because everybody tries to start off in kindness, but
Yes,
the
yes,
moment
right.
it's almost like you can overdo it. It's like, okay, well, here, let me take your hat. Oh, I got it. Here, let me take your shoe. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, like sometimes things can just get to a point where it's like, I'm fine, But like you were saying with the right away thing, what always happens to me is like if I wave the person and then they don't go, I wait a second, and then we both try to go at the same time.
Right.
So
Right.
then it's just like, oh man, so like
Yeah.
I waited for you. And that one always happens in narrow passageways too. I'll take a step to the side just to let that actually just happened to me this afternoon. I was leaving the hospital. The man and his wife walking out, and the passageway was narrow. So I stepped back so that he could follow his wife because we came out the door, two doors at the same time. And then he's like, "No, you go." And I just stood there. I've learned to just wait. I'm just gonna wait, and then I'm just not gonna move. And then they get it and they go. And it's like I'm trying to give you the right away. But I really, really liked what you were saying. And one thing that did come to my heart as well, like memories of listening to just everything you said, is sometimes people quit. And that's one thing, like you were saying, finding reasons to agree. But sometimes that's like the hardest. That's like the hardest. And I think that we got to get that out of the way. We got the feelings. I know I've felt like quitting. And I think we've all had to address some level of quit in our heart. But we shouldn't come to a table of compromise with quit in our heart. If we came to the point to where I'm willing to make it right with you, brother, right with you, sister, as people say, bury the hatchet, but we're not doing burying. We're like you said, we're not going to cover it up. We're gonna do something better. We're gonna restore
Right.
it.
Right.
We're gonna
Right.
pull up there, put some shine on that thing. But the reality is, we're gonna make things right. We're gonna renew. So since we're gonna make things better and bring life back into this situation, I didn't come here bearing the idea that as soon as it's not going away that I desire, I'm gonna throw it the flag, and I'm just gonna be like, as I call it, get into a place of defeat. Making a healthy compromise isn't about getting to the point of, oh yeah, you're right, and oh I never get it right, and it's not about that. It's about the fact that we are all different, and if we really want to get to know each other, then we'll understand, like you said earlier, those boundaries. There's a certain woman in my life I love that can't stand dogs. And she don't like them, like I'm not saying she hates dogs, but they have their spot and she has hers. Um, because of my love for her, I'm not gonna put a dog in her lap. And I'm never going to ask her to make an agreement with me to where she wants dogs in her lap. That's not going to happen. So those are the things that we need to be willing to do with people. We need to be able to know where those lines are. And then we also need to be willing to find, like you were saying earlier, those reasons to agree. Because we all don't really know each other until we come up to that point of disagreement. So I like what you were saying, and I want to grow on it. I'm just shocked that I can call my wife in here right now, and she can be like, "Yep, some of this is familiar today." But that's just awesome. I'm just really excited, and I think making healthy compromises is something that the Hebrew people, those who are servants of Yah and disciples of Yeshua Hamashiach, that we should be grade A, gold
Yeah.
star.
Absolutely.
We should be the best people in this. Like when you made that example of, man, that person was really good, easy to get along with. They should be talking about a Hebrew, someone who's a disciple of the master. And as he said, they will know your love for one another, and they will know me through your love for one another. So that's the idea for me, is like, if we're the people that are the best at compromising in terms of coming to agreements with each other, that's going to glorify him, because anybody can fight, anybody can argue, anyone can disagree, anybody can choose to go their own separate ways. But what kind of people come together? What kind of people are braided and knitted to each other? And I think that what you were saying is definitely something that should inspire that.
But yeah, yeah, absolutely, my brother. I think that was real good, and you really said something. I was thinking. I said that could be an inroad into maybe next week, but because either that or on the Shabbat, one of the two. No, because what you said is said that that he said that people will know us by our love for one another, right? And I always say I'm a man that say, what does that look like, right? What does that look like? Because the things that I see today, right? So what does that look like? And I think
Oh yeah.
that in this compromising, or when you dealing with communication, and when you're trying to do those things, we what's damaging to us is just my opinion, and the opinion just like the nose on your face, and all of them have two holes in it. But in in my opinion, there, when you're talking about compromising, it is very, very important in order for this hold of loving one another. You know, it is. I mean, that is a subway, like I say, into that. And how does that look like? Because I think we skip all over that. We do things, we build things, but what was the Mashiach really trying to tell us when he said that others would know? I mean, can people really look? Evaluate yourself. Can people really look and say what will be, what they would voice about you or your community? What is it that they would voice? Now anybody, I'm talking about all things being equal. We can't fool with the other foolishness, right? We saying, what if somebody say something about you that's not so, what it is, what it is, right? Well, I'm talking about, though, when they look into that you should love one another. So that was something that you put upon my heart, because I think it would go to well with a healthy relationship. And in that healthy relationship, that could help us have a guide as we put on the table. When I get ready to get up, can I say that people will look at our decision and look at that and say, yes, I know that they are the Mashiach because they love one another, right? That's a big thing. I just slid that in there, right? I just put that in there. And that's what we got to do, my brother. We have to make sure that whatever we do, that stay in a healthy place in every area of our life. We can use that for a lot, because there is an unhealthy place, and you can only do what you can only do. You just make sure that you, whoever the you is, do it. So I should make sure me do it. I have to do it. You know, So in that, I want to make things right. I want to make things right. So, brother, thank you for sliding in and joining me, us, and I compromised by having you on here, and
Oh, your honesty, it just goes right to my heart, man. You know, I feel like so comforted. I'm so comforted right now.
I thought I'd share some love with you.
Well, I
Well, thank you, and
appreciate it.
everybody that's in the room. I don't know, some of them have voiced the thing of being in the chat there. So, and I know maybe some that's not in the chat, and just relax. And I hope that this has been a power up moment and that you can be able to take some of this and maybe go back again and look at, different parts and try to put all things in practice. Whatever you learn from the Most High, whatever you have received from the Most High, I think I didn't say it, so much. I guess people say, is that all he talks about? But make sure that we begin to do that because that's where we get the benefit. And I think you said earlier, saw it in this sense, maybe you didn't say it like this, but make sure that the fruit, we develop fruit in one another. You know, first of all, you have to know that I need you and you need me,
That's
and
good.
that's what's going to be important. If I think I'm just me on the island, then you'll never include anyone else. It'll be just you. It'll be just you. So, look, the rest of the week you got somewhere that you got a chance to put healthy, right? Be healthy in that compromise, right? See if it's healthy when you leave the table in that. Okay, thank you again, my brother. May the Father rich your life and your family and everybody that's will listen to this and is in the room. May the rest of your week, as the Father gives us, day by day, because tomorrow is not promised. But if he gives you the light of day again, according to where you at, you may be looking at this in the daytime. But if he gives you to more time, let it be a time of rejoicing and a time of blessing in your life. And no matter what you find yourself in the situations that we are in today, just know that the Father can comfort us no matter what situation we in, and nothing is forever, meaning your situation, right? Meaning those situations. So there's a time, there's a time, there's a time, there's a time. So thank the Father and shalom, shalom to the whole house of Israel.